The creation of the Ministry of Budget and National Planning in November 2015 was refreshingly novel. It brought under one entity the Budget Office of the Federation, and the primary objective was to make budgeting a seamless process. The Ministry of Budget and National Planning supervises 4 parastatals: the National Bureau of Statistics, Center for Management Development, Nigerian Institute for Economic and Social Research, and the Budget Office of the Federation. The key mandates of the ministry include rendering policy advice to the federal government on all aspects of national development, development of national plans, annual budgets, monitoring and evaluation of government policies and programs, surveillance on the economy, coordination of state and federal government's economic relations, and management of development cooperation. However, to remove the obstacles in policy implementations, President Muhammadu Buhari brought finance, budget, and national planning under one ministry. The objective is to link budget with planning. In the past, there were beautiful plans, but implementation was difficult. Most notably was the challenge of budget implementation. These gaps created a significant strain, and the president needed to correct the situation. He merged the Budget Office and the Planning with the Ministry of Finance to maintain a dynamic trend of linking budget with plans and implementation. In a short period, the Ministry of Finance, Budget and Planning has achieved mind-blowing milestones.
I will say we've made some progress in the sense that Nigeria was in a recession in 2016. We were able to pull the economy out of recession and consistently grow the economy over 3 years before COVID happened, and then we have this decline.
We are working on a web app which I call the iMark. Eyes as in eyes, because like you know, government earmarks, but we want citizens to iMark. So we are taking advantage of the Grid 3 technology which we have in the ministry. It's a geospatial technology that can tell you where you are on the face of the earth, so that as we develop this app, when budgets are put in place, we will layer these budgets on Grid 3 and layer it across the country, so that it will have those latitude and longitude for those projects. So when the app now begins to work, Nigerians download it on their handsets, and they can take a picture of a project. It will come to us with the latitude and longitude. And the reason we're also trying to do this is to ensure that there is integrity in the system.
Nigeria is endowed with enormous natural and human resources, sufficient to place it among the first 20 developed countries of the world. It is Africa's largest producer of oil and the 6th largest oil-producing country in the world. With a population of over 200 million people, Nigeria stands tall as Africa's most populous country and Africa's largest economy because of the abundant human resources critical to national development. Despite the vast resources, majority of Nigeria's population wallow in abject poverty. Its economic fortune had significantly diminished due to lack of foresight, pragmatic plans, and poor management of resources by previous administrations. Nigeria was in desperate need of a focused political leader to rescue her from the brink of chronic economic woes. This was the sad situation before President Muhammadu Buhari, a leader with a strong character, integrity and determination to turn Nigeria around, took over the reins of government. The challenges President Buhari inherited were colossal. The president, aware of the many hurdles which hindered economic sustainability, prosperity and overall national development, swung into action. The first major step was a radical move to develop programs and initiatives to drive the economy. There were massive stimulus packages built into the economy, such as conditional cash transfers to vulnerable citizens, school feeding programs, building critical skills in young people, implementing a microcredit scheme for small traders and artisans. President Buhari gave high priority to agriculture and other unexplored sectors. The birth of the social investment programs and diversification of the economy made the desired impact. Economic growth resumed and continued to improve, albeit slowly. Foreign reserves and capital inflows increased, and the trade balance remained positive. But all these were not enough. The Economic Recovery and Growth Plan 2017 to 2020 (ERGP) was developed and launched in 2017, building on the successes of the Strategic Implementation Plan (SIP). In the efforts to drive the critical sector of the economy towards realizing the strategic objectives of the ERGP, the ministry developed laboratories which were industry-focused. The focal areas were agriculture, transportation, power and gas, manufacturing and processing. The labs were replicated in several sectors. The main aim of the ERGP was to address the country's economic challenges and lay the foundation for economic diversification, inclusive and sustainable growth. The ERGP came as a child of necessity to pull Nigeria out of recession and position it on the path of positive and sustainable economic growth. The initiative impacted significantly on the economic productivity of President Muhammadu Buhari-led administration, as Nigeria's economy experienced 11 quarters of consecutive GDP growth after exiting recession.
Key imperative of the ERGP is the achievement of sustainable agriculture and food security. So on that score also, I would say we have done well. We set out to be self-sufficient in food production in three key crops, rice, wheat, and maize. So while we have achieved self-sufficiency in rice and maize, we're still working to be able to stop the imports of wheat into the country. And it is now common knowledge that Nigerians are now consuming locally produced rice. So we are carrying through the objective that the head of His Excellency the President said, that we must produce what we eat and eat what we produce.
If you look at it from the point of view that Nigeria had about 5 consecutive quarters of negative GDP growth when ERGP was put in place, and the results of 12 consecutive positive GDP growth after ERGP was put in place until last quarter, which of course you know is as a result of the pandemic that slowed down things, the economy was shut down. I would say that ERGP did work. However, with the terms of reference that we have given to the Central Working Group working on the National Development Plan and the various technical working groups, they are still going to come back to us with the strengths of what we did, what the weaknesses are, areas where we have done well that we need to reinforce, and then the areas of weaknesses or threats where we need to do a lot more.
Like a thief in the night, the coronavirus came. As in other countries, the pandemic ravaged global economies and made nonsense of every economic plan. The federal government, through the Federal Ministry of Finance, Budget and National Planning, responded promptly in equal measure by stimulating the economy in a way to reduce the impact of the pandemic.
With COVID came shutdowns, and once there were shutdowns, demand fell. Supply also became a problem. So you find that in the oil sector, for instance, which is our mainstay, we had supply of crude, but there was no demand for it. There was a worldwide growth, so this affected revenues. Our own revenue in Nigeria dropped by about 67%. So with the general shutdown, the economy was in a turmoil, and there was a need to ensure that we create activities to stimulate the economy. So the sustainability plan had measures put in place to ensure that those who are really vulnerable or the vulnerable sectors in the economy were given succor. And those programs are currently running. And we thank God that with the last GDP report that we got, it was not as bad as we expected it to be, which meant that the stimulus is working.
Underscoring the importance of national development and the plan to lift 100 million Nigerians out of poverty within 10 years, President Muhammadu Buhari, on Wednesday, September 9, 2020, inaugurated the National Steering Committee to oversee the development of the Nigeria Agenda 2050 and the Medium-Term National Development Plan, MTNDP. The Agenda 2050 plan is being planned as the baseline to take Nigeria up from ground zero.
The main objectives of these successor plans are to lift 100 million Nigerians out of poverty. The successor plans must, therefore, be designed to sustain national development as well as support our regional and global strategic interests. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, it is now my pleasure to formally inaugurate the National Steering Committee to oversee the development of the Nigeria Agenda 2050 and Medium-Term National Development Plan to succeed the Nigeria Vision 2020 and the Economic Recovery and Growth Plan 2017 to 2020.
The mandate of the National Steering Committee include oversee governance structure comprising the Central Working Group and 26 technical working groups for the critical national assignment. Oversee the execution of key deliverables, including recommending measures to ensure the continuous implementation of the plans even after the expiration of the tenure of successive administrations.
Provision has been made in the service-wide vote for the development of the plan. But we also have support, and I would say specifically technical support from the development partners and private sector. For instance, the National Economic Summit Group gave us technical support for us to be able to develop the plan.
The problem with Nigeria is that most of those who do the planning do not involve the grassroots, because whatever you are doing has to come from the grassroots. It has to come from bottom top, not top bottom. That has been the problem in the past. Look at all the rolling plans in the past by the military. None of them worked. Vision 2010 didn't work. Vision 2020 didn't work. Now we are asked to produce another plan, and I can tell you something. You know, the composition of the membership of the present steering committee was well done. These are men and women with focus, men and women who are committed to developing Nigeria. You must have the passion for Nigeria, passion to make Nigeria work. And that's exactly what we're doing. That's why we sacrifice our time, our energy, our intellectual resources to make the plan work. And I can guarantee Nigerians that at the end of the day, they're going to have a very clear, pragmatic, functional plan.
At the Central Working Group, we are supervising the technical working group, oversee the technical working group to make sure that their reports are consolidated into one And if there are issues, we do intervene. So it's like really, after they have been inaugurated, they are doing their work, the work has to come together. We also supervise and oversee the plan secretariat as well. But most importantly is that the models that come out of the technical working group, there are 3 very important ones that has been concluded that we are working with now, and that's the macroeconomic framework, which gives you all the targets, the assumptions of how the economy is going to grow. You also have the diagnostic, growth diagnostics. What are the binding constraints? What were the things that we have to address if we are going to grow? And finally, you have a visioning document. That visioning document tells you the vision, where we want to be by the year 2050.
Atedo Peterside chairs the National Steering Committee for the MTNDP, and the Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning, Dr. Zainab Ahmed, serves as the co-chair.
The new plans will also focus on addressing these binding constraints that have impeded the much desired industrialization and transformation of our economy. Emphasis should therefore be placed on technology acquisition and adaptation, research and development, as well as the macroeconomic framework, which we have identified as the important growth drivers for growth and revenue. We must also be able to ensure that we use the new plans to work towards attaining global agendas such as the Sustainable Development Goals and the AU Agenda 2063, as well as the ECOWAS agenda.
As steering committee members, our pledge is that we will work as a team. We will learn from past mistakes in terms of errors of plan design, and we also believe that we will learn from past errors in terms of implementation. Why are we so confident? Partly because some of those past plans were done in an era of an oil boom. It is difficult to focus in a boom. It is a lot easier to focus in difficult times. Difficult times force people to become reasonable. So we believe that although these are difficult times, they're also the best time to get people together to seriously think about the future of this nation for the next 5 years and even going as far as 2050.
The Agenda 2050 plan is indeed not just a federal government plan, but an all-inclusive national plan driven by the collective efforts of the private sector, with the involvement of 3 political parties, professionals, the youth, civil society organizations, states, Association of Local Governments of Nigeria, ALGON, and persons with disability.
It's been said that we only plan, we don't implement, or even when you implement, we don't monitor to actually assess the impact. But with this new plan, and we are saying it's not the federal plan, it's a national plan. So we are saying that we not only earmark projects or earmark issues. This time, we want citizens to also be able to do what? earmark it, to see what we are doing by monitoring it, evaluating it, so that we can assess the impact. So you can be rest assured that the plan we are developing will have such parameters.
I was particularly excited from the beginning when I was told that they were inviting the major political parties, because a plan that goes beyond the horizon of this government, you cannot have this government alone do that plan, because the tenure of the time span of the plan goes beyond the life of this government. So if you talk 5 years, 5 years goes beyond the life of this government. And in many other countries, what they have done is that the major players have resolved some things in their planning. So I'll give you an example. In the UK, there are 2 major political parties. They have resolved some things. I'll give you just one example. Whether it is Conservative, whether it is Labour, the National Health Service has come to stay. If anything, they compete to tell you who will do more for the National Health Service. So which means that all the major political forces have accepted that this one has come to stay.
With this committee, I'm very sure, things will be fine, things will go okay, because the government is now making a serious effort in trying to get our people, included into the community.
Our contributions are to make sure that in the new national development, the case of women is brought to the front burner. Discuss about gender equality, especially inclusiveness in government. And of course, you know that we have some areas in the constitution that says you have to go back to your homeland if you are contesting. All those little things that inhibits women from growing in the country, we want those things to be reduced at least to the barest minimum.
There is a strong need for the inclusion of the youth in every plan. Now that we've been included, what we're bringing on board are our potentials, because we know very clearly that, okay, if these plans work on, this way or that, whatever we have on paper should be merged or matched with reality, should be matched with the potentials of the average Nigerian youth. How can we harness the potentials within the youth and translate all of these potentials to productivity? So for us from the National Youth Council of Nigeria, this is the picture we are seeing, a practical picture that should be able to move Nigeria from where she is today and triggering national development, a robust economy flourishing again, which is what the plan is all about.
In these times of global socio-economic instability, uncertainty and volatility, triggered by COVID-19 and aggravated by pre-existing developmental challenges, Africa looks up to Nigeria to play the lead role in the global economy. The Medium-Term National Development Plan, MTNDP, 2021 to 2025, 2026 to 2030, and the Nigeria Agenda 2050 are being articulated as a matter of conscious effort to be comprehensive. It will have the capacity to accelerate the attainment of various regional and global agenda.
Part of the problem in Nigeria was that historically, of course, we're a much younger nation. Ideas that should have come to stay, that should have been embraced by the whole nation, somebody will come, throw it this way, the next person will come, turn it upside down, the next one will come, begin afresh. So, because an economy where everything is being debated every time is going nowhere. We should have agreed on a national agenda of sorts, agreed on some important things, and then we can be debating things on the periphery.
What we do now, in terms of the medium-term plan, is supposed to be a slice of the 2050 vision framework that we have. And I'll give you an example. If in 2050 we are saying that we should be having a mega city, for instance, in every zone, that means you want Lagos or Abuja replicated in every zone so that it's not just Lagos that is big. Then if we are going to be doing that in 2050, then this is the time to start. We start working towards it.
For us in Nigeria to produce this kind of plan, the kind of plan that will meet the expectations of Nigerians, we have to be altruistic first. And that's why I commend the present leadership. What we're doing in on that committee has been very wonderful. People are committed. There was a time we sat from 10 o'clock in the morning till 10 in the night. All day, brainstorming on how to move Nigeria forward. And I think I'm very, very optimistic that by the time we conclude our work, taking it from the technical working group, to the central working group, then the steering committee will give Nigerians exactly what they want.
This time around, this plan is different. It's different because of the institutional arrangements that we have put around it. The plan, the way it's going is participatory. The plan is from community upwards. We have about 26 technical working groups made up of professionals and the various diversities that we have in the country. A steering committee is led by Mr. Tedo Peterside from the organized private sector and is co-chaired by the Honorable Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning, my sister, Mrs. Dr. Zainab Ahmed. This is because government is an enabler, so she's got to be there to ensure that the required logistics are provided, and then there's also an intermediary between the steering committee and government. Because if you look at Nigeria's GDP, more of it is from the private sector. And so we cannot develop a plan which ought to be implemented by the state, the local government, and the private sector. So they are the ones doing the plan. We're only coordinating and putting the plans together. So that's why I say this is a different plan. When you are part of the plan of a house, you know where the various rooms are and how to access it. And that's why I believe that the next plan will be a success.
The plan is going to be detailed on a sector-by-sector basis. The end goals will be determined, and also the milestones will also be determined. The time that the citizens will feel the impact of the work of government is when we have a GDP growth that is higher than our population growth. Our population growth now is at around an average of 3.2%. So if you have a growth that is lower than population growth, it means your population is growing faster than the growth of the economy. So we're targeting 7% growth for the Nigerian economy over the next 5 years.
The MTNDP will succeed the current Nigeria Vision 2020 and the Economic Recovery and Growth Plans, ERGP. At the same time, Agenda 2050 is a long-term perspective plan.